Welcome to the Destiny of Manufacturing podcast. Of course, we are powered by the Precision Metal Forming Association. And of course, today is a fantastic day because not only am I fortunate enough to be the host of this show, I again am Dean Phillips, your host, but I also have on a person who is a phenomenal host of his own podcast. I have with me the Millennial, the manufacturing Millennial. My apologies, Jake. Welcome, Jake Hall.
Hey, Dean, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So right off the bat, I like to get right into it. What is your big takeaway here for the next 5 years? What do you see coming down the road for us?
You know, I think what we're going to see is as the generations continue to get older in the industry, we're going to continue to face the onslaught of new generations and new jobs being fulfilled in manufacturing. And I think one of the biggest things that a lot of manufacturers question each day is automation's talked about in the industry, technology's talked about in the industry. How do we better adopt technology on our manufacturing floor? How do we make it so it's not, how are we reducing the risk of it? But then also on top of technology adoption, how do we get these young kids who have not entered the industry yet, or maybe are already working in manufacture or in other industries, how do we get them a part of manufacturing? So for the next 5 years, the big thing that I would say, Dean, is to look at is manufacturers need to do a better job on advocating the industry that all of us love so much. And we do a lot of times when we're out there, in this slide right here, we're talking about, for those of you guys who can see it's talking about the 2.5 to 2.4 million jobs that are going to be open in manufacturing, somewhere around 2030, where right now we have 600,000 jobs open right now in manufacturing that are unfulfilled. And the fact is those numbers are going to keep getting worse. And we need to be able to say, hey, we will never be able to, I would say, have a higher number of people working in manufacturing than we do right now in the United States. It's just one of those things. We're growing in industries, we're growing in diversity and the types of jobs that are out there. But at the same time, we need now more, I would say, skill-based jobs in manufacturing that we need to support. Automation is a phenomenal tool. Robotics is a phenomenal tool. All these new technologies are great, but at the end of the day, if we don't have people that can program robots, if we don't have people that can run presses, if we don't have skilled machinists or CNC programmers that know how to make parts, we can't do our daily operation. And I think it's one of those things is automation is a nice tool that I would say is alleviating some of the physical pressure that goes on individuals. But at the same time, we still need people with their creative minds and to be able to do skill tasks. And I think that's the big thing that we're out there is manufacturing needs to take a new approach of promoting the opportunity that our industry can offer to future generations.
Yeah, that's a great point too, because one of the things that I've always felt that we've been falling down on over the last few years is how do we get people trained? And the problem is we've had the attitude of going at it the same way as we always used to.
Yeah.
And I think the bad part of that is that also permeates throughout manufacturing, which is, well, I'm offering them a job, that should be enough. No, it isn't enough. Not if you want them to come in Monday morning.
Yeah.
Because they've already seen, I'm not interested in this. The companies that are successful, you can see the approach that they use. They do things like, hey, take your phone out. They have the kids that are coming in and interviewing for take your phone out. We've got QR codes here, kind of show you what's going on. They're already want the kids to embrace the technology, and they want them to know that they are encouraging of that. And I think that's really important for companies that ask me all the time, how do we get younger people interested? Well, are you embracing technology? Are you illustrating that within your company? Because if you're not, that's really difficult, because that's the hook in manufacturing is technology.
Yep.
You better have a way of doing it.
Yeah, 100%, Dean. I love to use this example when I'm out and I'm doing keynotes and presentations like that. And the example is when I was 16 and my dad took me, we got my first car. It was a 1996 Ford F-250. I paid $1,000 for it. And he brought me to AutoZone and he said, okay, Jake, you're going to go get a Haynes repair manual. You probably remember that. It was the book out there. It was a black and white book that felt like newspaper paper inside. There was an appendix in the back. And if you wanted to fix something, you wanted to repair something, you wanted to do something, you went back there, told you to go to page 37, and it walked you through how to replace an alternator in your car. The same thing could be said where if you wanted to learn a recipe back in the day, what'd you do? You took out your mom's Betty Crocker cookbook, you went there, you looked at the pictures, you found one that looked good, and you got the instructions and you followed the instructions on there. That was the way we did things. Now, with a younger generation, the millennials and Gen Zs now, we're a generation that's grown up through digitalization. We're digital natives. We learn through technology, where before, it was one of those things where we learned through an old Haynes repair manual. Now we learn through YouTube, or we go on Pinterest or Instagram, and that's where we find recipes. And Dean and I'm an older millennial. I'm 34, and Dean, you've experienced this as well, where you've grown from the paper-based work instructions of how we've done things, and we've moved to digital. But for a lot of people, the younger generations, the future generations, they have never really experienced this older generation side of learning, of teaching, of retaining and doing new knowledge, of writing down information, right? If you go out there and you say, hey, I want you to create this graph or an Excel graph, they're going to go in Excel, put all the numbers in a column, and they're not going to do that. They're not going to go on a graph paper and draw out a line diagram or create a pie chart. That would be ridiculous. Yet we still go into manufacturers across the floor, and I walk out there, and next to each manufacturing line is a grid pattern on a whiteboard where there is uptime, parts made, scrap, downtime, common errors that are coming out of a PLC machine, because the PLC just shows the error. There's no SCADA system to actually track anything,
right?
And so we walk out there and then we say, well, we're manufacturers, but then you wonder why the person leaves after 2 months of working there is because they feel completely disconnected from the way they live 18 hours a day, 16 hours a day, to when they go to work for a manufacturer for the other 8. It's like they're stepping back in time 20 years.
Right.
And so while I'll preach the perspective of, listen, having data and context in your manufacturing process on its own is extremely important as we want to move to more productivity out of the machines on the floor. And that's what I did for years. I sold SCADA and MES systems around software for manufacturers. It's also the other side of allowing younger generations to see their direct impact on what they can do for their company. If you're going out there and you're showing a productivity chart of the direct of them running a line and seeing the direct cause and effect of how efficient that line is running, and then putting in gamification to see how well they ran against the previous shift, or how well they ran the previous day, or how they're competing on 7 other lines that are doing the same exact thing on the floor, and turn it into gamification. What I can say young generations do like is they do like to see statistics. They do like to see data. I mean, for young guys like me who've played video games, I love the end game, the end display of the game to say, hey, this was my accuracy. This was my statistics. This was my impact. This is how good I did. Right. Manufacturers, I think, are completely missing that opportunity when it comes to that. But on top of that, it makes the young generations excited. But honestly, if you're a plant manager or you're a floor guy, you should know that regardless.
Right. And that data is available now so much more than it used to be. When we think about it, we have more and more information available at our fingertips than it ever has been through IoT. And people talk about adoption, and I was interviewing Reed Coe from Coe press equipment, and we were discussing the fact that we have more data available to us now. We should be able to be way further ahead in what we can do with that data. And that's where I think we're still challenged, is acting upon the data that we have, and then going out there and showing people why this is important.
Yeah.
And I think we're challenged a lot of times with the younger generation of, it was always, I don't know, when I grew up, it was and I hate to be that guy, when I was but, there's an element there of when I was starting in this, it was a need to know basis.
Yeah.
It, you would learn things as you needed to know them, but you can't do that today. Younger people want to know. They want to know their impact, not only impact within the plant, but outside. How does this impact the greater good?
Yeah.
And I've told our company, my daytime jobs, I put my daytime hat on, is Link Systems. So when I'm working for Link Systems and when I'm doing my job, I go out and I am there as an advocate for safety, because we try to make manufacturing safer. We also try to, through automation controls, to improve the productivity. Those are both tangible things that you can see your impact on, but you have to explain that to people. You can't just say, well, it's just a given that things like safety and how you impact the greater manufacturing. Because if we lose manufacturing in the US, it's not going to be a pretty sight. So it's important through automation, through workforce development, to keep manufacturing here. How do you see some of the things over the next 5 years changing to improve some of those?
Yeah. I mean, when you look at digital adoption, or I guess you could say a digital strategy of adoption of digital strategy for manufacturers, like I think less than 10% of manufacturers right now actually have a strategy when it comes to digitalization of the floor. And what I see over the next few years is a couple things. One is I think manufacturers are beginning to wisen up on their approach to social media. And for so long, social media was another, I guess you could say, avenue of just showcasing their product that they sell. And I think what the manufacturing industry, which is, I would say, arguably a lot farther behind other industries when it comes to social media, is to be more relevant to people. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the big changes that we're going to see is manufacturers are going to take a different approach where they're going to become a lot more active on social media. They're going to become more brand. They're going to try and become more relatable as younger generations want to have more interaction and be more comfortable. I think that's one thing that we're going to see a shift for, is the online presence. Is social media isn't just an advertising anymore. It's a place to build culture. It's a place to build relationships. It's a place to build community. Not just towards your customers, but also your partners, your manufacturers, your suppliers, your employees. There's so much more that I think social media can offer to manufacturers. Like that's kind of where I got my start, Dean, was the pandemic in 2020. I was in outside sales at the time, and I turned to LinkedIn to say, as a means to just reach an audience, because I had to work from home. And, over the 3-year period of time, I've been blessed to, have thousands and thousands of followers on social media and 100 million plus views on content. But for me, what it proved is there's an industry and there's a community out there that wants to see cool stuff in manufacturing. The way it's just, we need to present it in a way that's not salesy, but it's educational and it's inspirational.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting you say that, because I think some of the shows that kind of kick some of those things off, Dirty Jobs,
yeah,
How It's Made, Mythbusters, that made it entertaining and educational.
Yeah.
And it's cool to watch how something's made. I love like the shows of how it's made. And even younger generation, I'll see younger kids when I'm at colleges, and a lot of times I'll go and I'll speak at here in Tennessee at like Tennessee Tech or MTSU or at Memphis. And one of the things is they'll come up and they'll show me, hey, here's this video of how this is made. And the kids love that, because that's how they learn. Mm-hmm. We have this version of how we learned in a book, a textbook, and things like that when I was younger. But now, geez, I'd have to tell my dad all the time. My dad's in his 80s, and it's like, look, that's not how people do things. Go on YouTube. You can look up a video of how to take that apart on the car if you got to change the headlight or something like that. there's a video out there. I guarantee it. I guarantee there's a video out there
Yeah.
somebody's made. And that's the great part of it, is the willingness to share information.
1000%.
How
1000%.
how can we get manufacturers to understand that message better?
I think I think a lot of cases it's leading by example. The one thing is you have to show them. And, that's my goal for advocating the industry, is saying, hey, look what I'm doing just as an own individual with a personal brand. I think that is a great example then for manufacturers to empower their own employees to become more relatable as a whole as well. So like, that's one thing that I would want to see. The other thing that I think manufacturers need to do a better job on is local engagement with their community, right? They all go out there, they'll do a local trade fair. They might donate a couple $1,000s to a local college or all that stuff. But what are they doing to get inside the middle schools, the high schools, to say, hey, look at the opportunity, or open the doors for them and saying, hey, we want the general public who's in this area to come to our doors and see what we make and showcase the cool parts about manufacturing. Manufacturing, I would say, it's not necessarily the young kids who want to be a part of manufacturing, that don't want to be a part of a manufacturing. It's the fact that their parents are saying that you shouldn't go into manufacturing. Their guidance counselors are saying you shouldn't go into manufacturing. You should go get a 4-year degree and blah, 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 blah. And even if you don't know it, you have a degree. And I'm like, what a waste of money. And I think there's a general awakening around, hey, graduating with student debt stinks. Going to get a degree that isn't even going to pay you its worth really stinks. And maybe there's other roads and avenues besides going to get a 4-year degree. Now, like, let me phrase this. If you're going to go to school to get an engineering degree, fantastic, great. You will make your money back wherever you go. You'll get paid. You're getting an engineering degree, awesome. Same with a lot of STEM degrees that are out there. But I would argue there's a lot of degrees out there that have zero value to actual job credibility and experience, yet general society is saying, don't worry, that's okay. We'll find something for you. And if you can't find a job, we'll find a way to repair it or reprimand, and I think general society is waking up to that fact, for one. And going back to my conversation, then I think we need to say there's other roads and avenues, especially when skilled trades, and we all know that has been on the decline for decades. On don't go to skilled trade, don't become a plumber, don't become a carpenter, don't become a welder. And a lot of times it's because it wasn't the sexy thing to do. It wasn't the cool thing. Yet all of a sudden we're figuring out, well, you know what? Being a welder might not be the coolest thing as a multi-million-dollar venture capitalist fund based in LA. But you know what? Not everyone's going to be there. Half the time that stuff's fake anyway. But what it's not fake is going to get a skilled trades degree, becoming a welder, and putting 5 years in the industry, 10 years in the industry, you're making almost $100,000 a year. I saw a post by one of my friends on LinkedIn. They were making a post out there saying, needed journeyman electrician, Texas, $55 an hour. Like, so tell me how these skilled tradespeople, right? A journeyman electrician, that's not a 4-year degree. No. That's skilled trades with an apprentice working for a programmer. A lot of times you're getting paid to go and do the whole program. Yeah, you might get paid 12, 13, 14, 15 bucks an hour. But here's the thing. I'm so sick of society saying, oh, well, pay me my worth. Well, put in your time. And as a millennial, like, that hurts me, where my generation has this thing where there's this sense of entitlement. And yes, things are more expensive now. Yes, houses are more expensive. I totally get that. There's those things out there. I'm not trying to not acknowledge that, but at the same time, that doesn't take away from the fact that if you want something, you have to work for it. And my I guess you could say, standing on my soapbox, is skilled trades presents a lot of opportunities, and not even skilled trades, associate's degrees, local community colleges going to become a CNC programmer or a PLC programmer or robotic technician. Those jobs pay extremely well. There's very little risk and upfront cost compared to going to school to get a 4-year degree. And listen, a lot of manufacturers out there right now will say, oh, you know what? You got a 6-month associate's degree from here where you're a PLC, you're certified in Rockwell. Great. Do you have 5 years of experience? No. But you know what? if you got a good work ethic and you can show that you had the ambition there, you'll learn along the way, you know, and like, and that's the whole entire thing. The same thing with being a press operator or and going out there and working in the metal forming industry or stuff like that. It's like, you can go and you can get a certification or an apprentice in a program, and the value that you have there is way more valuable than a lot of 4-year university degrees.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Is that people that I always ask the students is that what are the skills that you've developed? You've gone to school. What are the skills?
Mhm.
What's your skill set? And most of them can't tell me. You know, I mean, if they went to engineering or something else, they can't necessarily tell me what their skills are that I should pay you for.
Mhm.
You know, okay, you have the same degree as everybody else. What's different about you? And a lot of them don't even understand that aspect of it. And
Yeah.
I tell,
The new joke is now a business degree is just a glorified GED.
yeah,
And it's one of those things is I wanted to go to school. I wanted to get a business degree because I love sales. I love customers. But my dad said, no, if you're going to go to a school, you're going to go get an engineering degree, and then you can figure out whatever you want to do after that. I'm thankful that, you know, I had a father to keep me on that track to motivate me. But at the
sure.
same time now, I feel with access to information and hopefully with just some basic critical thinking, young kids can look and say, you know what? I see people where the average student debt for a 4-year in-school public is $31,000, a out-of-school public's $42,000, and a private $65,000. And then they're realizing that, hey, this person has a 5-year with $60,000 in debt, and they're working at a front cashier at a local restaurant making maybe 14, 15, 16 bucks an hour. Hey, maybe that's not for me. I really wish there was more public access to, like, before you can get accepted into a program at a university, you need to say, this is your actual entry rate. And like, I almost wish that they would sign off acknowledging like, hey, you're going, and of course it's never going to happen, right? Because universities are in it for making money. But, you know, if you're go out there and you're like getting government funding or a check, you would almost have to say, I acknowledge I'm just going to say business degree. I acknowledge I'm going to get a business degree, and I acknowledge that I'm probably going to graduate with $40,000 in debt. And I acknowledge that I might get paid $35,000 a year for my first year. And I acknowledge that it's going to take me 14 years to pay this debt off. And
Right.
like, I wish like general high school education did a better job explaining that rather
Right.
than all these base courses. Like, and I'm going on a rant, Dean, so I apologize for that. But like,
No.
just like taxes in general, like if high school students learned a better idea of what taxes can do to them or how to file for taxes or like basic principles like that, man, I think the manufacturing industry, excuse me, would be way better off, because then people would see the light of, wow, the manufacturing industry is a low risk to entry sector with a high payoff.
Yep.
And more people would be involved in what we're trying to do. And it's one of those things, well, if you have more people, then, you know, the job thing goes up. And listen, in 2001, we went from a 3% unemployment in manufacturing to a 7% unemployment in manufacturing. That lost the U.S. manufacturing industry $94 billion and lost potential manufacturing output that we just simply couldn't produce. We couldn't bite off that pipeline because we didn't have the jobs that were out there. The production and the value will follow the workers, right? I think the biggest thing that is holding up U.S. production right now and continuing to grow as an industry is we don't have the physical labor and the means to produce more.
Yeah, I think there's been an acceptance of that. We've accepted that we don't have the ability to produce more. So it's kind of become the norm. It used to be the norm that you would have 2 shifts to 3 shifts in a manufacturing facility. Now it's 1 to 2 because I can't find people, and that's been an accepted reason for that. I need some context here on this slide that you've got here, Jay.
Yeah, so this is the bathroom test. And there's for those of you who are listening and not watching, there's a left-hand picture that's showing stack lights in an airport bathroom. So you're traveling to a lot of different airports now. They have indication lights above each stall to let you know if it's occupied or not. And there's a TV screen outside the door that'll let you know how many stalls are available, or if they're all full, what the wait is to get to the next bathroom at an airport. And what this is showing basically is bathrooms now have real-time indication on the usage and productivity of a toilet. Yet we walk into manufacturers, a lot of them, and I went into a lot of different manufacturers yesterday, and you walk into a lot of injection molding machine or hand presses or presses, and you're listening to this right now, you're telling me, and you'll be surprised how much of your equipment on the floor doesn't have real-time status indication. And the point of the slide is saying is your manufacturing floor that has hundreds of millions of dollars of equipment on it, or hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars of equipment on your factory floor, is it dumber than an airport bathroom? And the reality of the fact is, yeah, a majority of manufacturers in the US still don't have real-time tracking and data and indication to let them know what the productivity of the floor is compared to a bathroom.
Yeah.
And the other thing I like to bring up this real quick, Dean, is bathrooms are a great visualization and identifier to the culture of your company as a manufacturer. And I always love using this as an example. If you're a manufacturing facility and you're saying, how come our workforce isn't more diverse? How come we're having a hard time people coming and hiring? Leave your front office with your own private bathroom, where all the front staff work, where all the customers, when they come in or suppliers come in and use that bathroom, walk out to the factory floor bathroom in the way back of the building that has the concrete, walls and all that stuff. Walk inside that bathroom and tell me, how well is that bathroom taken care of? How well are you as an employer taking care of that bathroom? And how well are your employees, or how much are your employees respecting the property of that bathroom? If there's junk all over the floor, if they're just leaving napkins everywhere, if you're not cleaning it, that is the culture of your company. That shows the current state of how your employees care about you as a manufacturer. And that shows you as a manufacturer how much you actually care about your employees. I think that's a phenomenal example. But then the other thing I always bring into is the discussion of the women's bathroom on the manufacturing floor, which I think is often overlooked, especially when manufacturing is still like a 70+% white male dominated industry. The fact of the matter is, manufacturers often overlook the basic needs and essentials when it comes to women in our industry, when it comes to proper hygienic products that women need to perform their jobs out there. And a lot of times women, just by their nature, they are not going to bring that up with their employer. They're not going to bring that up with their boss and say, hey, there's no trash can located in our stall to handle the stuff that I need to take care of. And what you're immediately doing is you are making that work environment for them more difficult and less welcoming. So if you are a manufacturer, say, hey, what are we doing to keep people, better retained in our industry? Walk to the factory floor and walk in the bathroom and tell me what that bathroom looks like. And if that bathroom is a respectable place to say, I am proud to have this bathroom for my employees, but also for the women in manufacturing. And it's going to give you a very quick awakening. And I could say a lot of people who are probably listening to this podcast probably haven't walked back in their bathroom recently to understand the current state of it. So that's the bathroom test. So it's the digitalization, the visualization of a bathroom, but also the culture in which the way the bathroom's taken care of.
No, I think that's a great visualization, and in both cases, I think that's it really illustrates some of the challenges we have and how far we still have to go within our manufacturing facilities. So, Jake, we're out of time here, buddy.
Oh man, that was quick.
Tell everybody how they can reach you.
Yeah, I mean, so the biggest thing I would say is, if you're on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search Jake Hall or search the Manufacturing Millennial, and you'll find me. You can also go to themanufacturingmillennial.com, and that's my website. But as a last, I guess you could say, thought to your listeners, Dean, if you're a manufacturer, the biggest impact that you can make is local. And I strongly encourage you to get involved with your local community, starting at the high school and middle school age level, and show how you can create your impact that way. And so there's information. I do keynotes, I do public speaking, I do consulting. I love to talk with you as a company to figure out how we can better advocate manufacturing together.
Excellent. That's Fantastic. Great to have you here today. It's been my pleasure to have you here. And I want to wish everybody have a great day and be safe.
Thanks, everyone.